Hello, welcome to the latest Common Censored Live. Thank you guys for being here. Wow, Nick, you are on early.
Yay.
I love it that Nick's here first. Thanks, folks, for coming. Those of you who will watch this later, thanks for joining us as well. And yeah, we're going to spend the next hour with you going over some of the news, some of what's crushing down on us, like a ton of bricks, but bricks that are coated in a particularly stinky turd. I think is the type of bricks that I see coming down on us. But we will be raising money for a cause, as we do every week. Hello, Patricia. Hello, Daniel. We will be raising money. So if you go over to youtube.com/momentofclarity, you can partake in the super chat. And this week we will be raising money for
Stop Line 3. But real quick, I thought y'all, particularly folks who have been watching this for a while, would be interested to know how much money we've raised for org so far, which is really fucking cool. Lee.
Oh, me? I thought you were going to call on someone else. So, hello, Stephen. Yeah, we haven't been doing these that long, 6 months, but we don't do them every week. We try and do them as many weeks as we can. But you guys have donated $10,500 to causes such as Stop Line 3, such as bail bonds, such as medical debt, such as food not bombs, such as helping the homeless, go down the list, helping people that are in prison, helping people that are oppressed in our society. Just so many cool things you guys have done, the environment, food and water watch. Anyway, we have passed $10,000 of donations. And like I said, we haven't been doing these that long. So thank you guys for being a part of this and watching it and sharing it. By the way, if you're just joining us, which of course you are, we just started, please take a moment to share this and let people know to come over here and be a part of this week's live stream. We're going to hit a lot of topics. We're going to hit a lot of what's going on in the country. I don't know. We probably won't be talking about the insurrection because I've done it, I think, 37 and a half videos on that now. So
we're done.
We're kind of done on that, but we're going to touch on the horrible people Biden's putting into control or plans to, which is very exciting. I was hoping he would let us know and give us a sign of how awful he's going to be by putting in terrible, corrupt, and standard imperial candidates into those.
I believe the quote was, "Nothing will fundamentally change." That's a Biden quote.
Biden said that. Don't have no fear. Nothing will fundamentally change.
Awesome, right? Because that's what we're going for. We're going for more of the same.
I mean, he was selling those T-shirts, right? Biden, nothing will fundamentally change.
Yeah.
So yes, we will be getting to all that in a moment, but let's start out by. And I'll give one other announcement of something I'm excited about is my comedy special, which did not start out free on YouTube, but has been free on YouTube for a while now, is now over 200,000 views. Thank you guys for that. That's really awesome. And it's free to watch. For those of you who haven't watched it, you can look it up on YouTube or go to leecampamerican.com. And thanks for helping it get over 200,000. Yes, another worldview is possible, has said Samantha Power. I'm going to get into that a little later. But I want to start out with talking about Line 3, which is where the donations will be going this week.
Yes, indeedy. So I saw that somebody had already said that they're from Minnesota, and then they're familiar with the Stop Line 3 movement, I guess. And a lot of folks are calling it like the new Standing Rock, the new fight against, the new DAPL, the Dakota Access Pipeline, which folks might recall from a few years ago was the big fight against the oil pipeline from the Bakken oil fields, and that was ultimately completed.
However, I know that people think of Standing Rock and they think, oh, well, what a failure. But the truth is that those fights are pivotal in future fights. They create the energy that lives on and grows, and people see the possibility, even if the end of the day, you're going to get crushed by the fist of the fascist state. Because guess what? People fighting, dudes with full riot gear and automatic rifles, and all they're fighting them with is sage. That is difficult. It's an uphill battle. So I think that the fact that it didn't stop the pipeline doesn't mean that the Standing Rock fight wasn't incredibly important.
Oh, no. Me saying that the pipeline was completed is not at all in relation to the fight. I think these fights
I wasn't. I was just saying.
Okay.
I was just saying.
Okay, but I just want to say now. For instance, the tail end of the Dakota Access Pipeline, the Bayou Bridge Pipeline, was finished in Louisiana. But the fight against the Bayou Bridge Pipeline was incredibly powerful, and actually the Low LV camp got the Bayou Bridge Pipeline to shift its course around that land, and it's now a food forest, which is growing food for the community and is really spreading the word and spreading the power, not just of Indigenous rights and of connection to nature, as opposed to our existence above the ecosystem as if that were a thing, but also speaking to the issues of food sovereignty and things like that. So these fights are incredibly important, regardless of whether the actual project goes through, and it really promotes the intersectionality of these issues. For instance, same thing with the Stop Line 3, the intersection of, for instance, Indigenous rights and environmental rights and racial justice, and all of these issues being interconnected. So it really gets people working together in a way that has, I'd like to say it's shifting, but has in the past put people in these silos, right? So it's like, oh, I only work on environmental issues, so I'm not paying attention to racial justice. And it's like, well, then you can't actually work on environmental issues because they coexist with all these other issues. So I think these movements are incredibly important for a variety of reasons. But of course, the Stop Line 3, this has been a fight that's been ongoing for quite some time. So Enbridge, which is the company that's behind Line 3, which is the company that's behind a lot of horrific shit.
I was going to say Enbridge up to this point only done positive things. I think they were selling snow cones mainly.
Right.
Like the pineapple flavor,
totally.
my favorite. But now they delved into being utter and complete shit turd faces. So
yeah, that's a good, it's a technical term. So basically the project is to expand an existing pipeline in Minnesota. And the Enbridge, the company, has a horrific track record of spills and of just the larger catastrophes that destroy not just ecosystems, but communities as well. And just to give you some background on what that looks like, from 2002, and right now I'm looking at the stopline3.org website, so y'all can check that out too if you want a little bit more information and background. Between 2002 and the present, Enbridge and its joint ventures and subsidiaries reported 307 hazardous liquids incidents to federal regulators. That's the ones that were reported. Because here's the other thing: is that
self-report. Right?
Yeah, thank you. Stole my fucking punchline.
Sorry, I didn't know that's where you were going.
So they self-report, which means that they don't usually report. They usually report only when it's so horrific that they have to, because it's so obvious that if they didn't, it would be obvious and somebody else would report. So that averages out to one incident every 20 days. And these spills released a...
Thank you, Vienna, the first donation.
Thank you.
Going to Line 3, really appreciate it.
So that averages out to one incident every 20 days. And the spills released a conservative estimate of 66,000 barrels, which is 2.8 million gallons, which is larger than 4 Olympic-sized swimming pools of hazardous liquid. So that's the company that's behind this project, right? So this is, of course, poisoning groundwater. It's destroying the ecosystems that they come into contact with, of course. And so right now, folks are fighting. Folks are really fighting.
Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Gabe. Against the Line 3 pipeline. And this is even in the midst of a pandemic. The construction.
Thank you, Vera.
On Line 3 is considered essential, which is fucking horrifying.
You mean it's like essential work, like during the pandemic?
Yeah. So. And of course, this is even more horrific when you look at how Indigenous communities have been hit by the pandemic.
Education, not essential, but
right.
Getting this pipeline through
Thanks,
to deliver us to the end times in terms of climate change, that is essential. Thanks, Marty.
Where was I? Yes. So the way that Indigenous communities have been hit by this in particular is really by the pandemic in particular is really, really horrific. And then you add on to that, hey, we're going to bring in a bunch of out of state. And that's important to note because these construction workers are from out of state. They're not local. So the whole trope of like, we're hiring local workers is bullshit. They never do.
Well, and when
they're bringing in people from out of state to work on the construction of this pipeline, which only furthers, of course, the spread of the pandemic, but also the issue of man camps, which is where the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls comes from. You have man camps come in that oftentimes not only in this case spread disease.
Not this man camp. I'm one of the good ones.
Oh my God, I just got that. That's funny. Okay. So there are a lot of intersecting issues here, and that's why it's so vital to show solidarity and support in stopping Line 3. I know you want to say something, so go ahead.
Yeah, this is my new hand signifier. Yeah, and one of my favorite things, I mentioned this on Government Secrets this week, but I'm going to mention it again because I think it's awesome, is that fracking has been shown scientifically to cause gonorrhea.
It's true.
Literally, when fracking comes to an area, there is a heavy uptick on gonorrhea, thanks to the man camps. Not this guy, but other man camps. So yeah,
the institution of man camps, not the man.
Literally,
camp.
when your community is deciding whether to have fracking in the area, just know gonorrhea.
But
if they blow up someone in your community, they will send you a free pizza. That is a
God,
true story.
That's a true story.
Chevron sent free pizzas to a community because they blew up some people.
That's true. They got vouchers for free pizza. Yeah. So Enbridge is fucking horrifying. You can look up, and the Line 3 website does a great job of, you got everything from, maps, going back years, the changes and things like that to recent news about what's been going on. People have been getting arrested, stopping construction along the construction route. So this is a very, very much an ongoing fight.
Thank you, Will.
And super important that we show support in whatever way we can, which right now is raising money. So thank you so much. Well, you know what? We love old fucks.
Listen.
Well,
you know what? Old fucks know a lot. That's what I've found.
It's true. You've seen some shit. So, folks, someone's asking where you can find sources about man camps. I did some reporting about man camps on my previous show that I had, Act Out. So if you look that up, then you can find...
Thank you, Chuck.
There's also a lot of reporting, also from Indigenous reporters about... Thank you, Chuck. About man camps. And if you just look up like man camps on DuckDuckGo or something, you'll find quite a bit of reporting on it. Also, I saw somebody ask where they can donate to our journalism, and I'll say for me, you're definitely welcome to become a patron of the work that I do. Almost all the work that I do is released for free, so you can check out how to become a patron over at artkillingapathy.com. And if folks want to donate, to the Line 3 that we're raising money for tonight, and you're on Facebook, you'll need to go to youtube.com/momentofclarity, and right where you have the little thing to put your comment, there's a little $sign.
And in terms of to get beyond just the initial reasons to fight climate change, thank you, Canvas Dancer. Thank you, old
unshaven one.
Unshaven one. I assume another old fuck. Like I said, I love old fucks.
But this one's unshaven.
To get beyond just the initial reasons that this pipeline's not go through, then you get deeper into like climate change and what we're doing environmentally. And
that's the other thing is it would release the same amount of this project is equal to like the emissions of something like 40 coal powered plants. 40. So yeah, that's horrifying. Anyway, go ahead.
Nice. Well, I was going to say that the Democrats and Republicans, the Republicans act like climate change doesn't exist. The Democrats say it very much exists, and therefore we're going to do nothing about it. I will hold out some tiny degree of hope that the fact that Biden has just made the scientific advisor a cabinet level position could matter to some degree. I haven't looked into the past history of the person who wants to be his scientific advisor. So hopefully it's not a fucking big oil guy or some shit. Because there are Monsanto scientists, there are big oil scientists, and they come forward and they show their data that shows that you need to spray Monsanto on your loved ones, or so they'll grow tall and be strong. And you got to spray Roundup on them. So I will hold out some little level of hope that at least that's a good step. But what needs to be done in our world and by our quote unquote leaders, it needs to be drastic, and it needs to happen now. And anyway, stopping these pipelines is step one of 100 that need to happen. But
yes, indeed.
thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Erica. I get everything like a second later. That's why I'm saying thank you after him. It's not because I'm like, fuck y'all. It's because there's a lag.
She means the time it takes sound to travel from here to there is...
Okay. You know,
the finger doesn't take any time to travel to my eye.
I have a BS, a Bachelor of Science in audio. So I know exactly how long it takes.
You do have a BS.
It's not a second. Thank you, Bert.
When I think about you, I always think BS. So. Thank you, Bert. And by the way, thank you, Carlos. And by the way, feel free to throw in topics or ideas you'd like to hear us talk about. Questions, we're open to them. I did hear one question about where can you get a redacted tonight mug. I'm sorry, you cannot. It's not possible to get a redacted.
Way to give people false hope.
The only way, there was one way to get a Redacted Tonight mug, and that was to come to a Redacted Tonight taping in DC. During the pandemic, though, there's no live audience. However, once pandemic over, live audience will be back, and we'll probably be giving out mugs. So come on out.
Yeah, that'll be good times again.
There's some sort of argument raging in the comment thread about socialism or something. And,
don't feed the trolls. Don't feed the trolls, folks.
Well, definitely don't feed the trolls. But I was going to say that Red Shirt just about said something similar, which is how,
Thanks, Shane.
How many CIA-backed coups does it take for you to realize socialism doesn't work? I don't understand why people can't get this.
Well, and this is the like everything they told us was going to happen under socialism happened under capitalism, like the bread lines that are miles and miles long. Some people have been driving 2 hours to wait 4 hours in line at food banks to get food during the pandemic. Wow, that's some shit that I heard about on like, oh, this is what happens under socialism and communism. And aren't you glad, little kid, that you live under capitalism? And I'm like, wait, no, this is awful. So yeah. The propagandization is all bass backwards.
Yes, capitalism is killing us, to answer Red Shirt. So if feel free to keep throwing in topics and stuff. Like we've said, all the donations, all the proceeds are going to Stop Line 3, the pipeline, the continued fight against that. So thank you to all those who donated. As I said at the beginning of this, although I know many of you were not here yet, we just topped $10,000 that has been donated in our live streams over just a few months to a variety of causes. And can't thank you enough. Really, really incredible of everybody. So maybe we'll move on to some of Biden's amazing picks.
Oh, Will has an interesting question.
Okay.
Did you want me to read it out loud?
Yeah, what is going on? I wasn't looking.
Sorry.
Oh, yes. Several years back, they got rid of the possibility of going bankrupt to avoid student loans. And it wasn't like just a cop out. I mean, you're your shit had to be going bankrupt is kind of a last ditch effort.
Yeah, no one goes bankrupt just because they like missed
it's like
a payment
fun.
on something. No.
Yeah, no, they do it as a last ditch
Fucks up
effort
your life.
when your life is already fucked. You don't really have a way to pay these things, and so then you go bankrupt. And I believe Biden was a heavy supporter that like pushing people to vote for this to make sure it went through, because Biden's number one funder through his entire 40-year career in the Senate has been credit companies and banks. So Biden was a big push behind making it impossible. You can remove the comment now. We're kind of drowning here. Biden was a big push behind this bill to make it impossible to declare bankruptcy and get out from under your student loans. So now corporations can declare bankruptcy to avoid paying billions in restitution to the fucking victims of the horrors they've done. They can destroy lives, destroy your life savings, kill people via cancer or whatnot, via opioid crisis, and then declare bankruptcy and owe basically nothing. So they can do that. But if you're a student collapsing, your life is collapsing under $100,000 of student loan debt,
and you don't have any job prospects, you get paid minimum wage, you don't get health benefits. Yeah, you're fucked.
Because you majored in, flute. Then
hey, even people who get first of all, we should not be training kids to just be good proles, and second of all,
I wasn't. I was.
Wait, no. Now I'm climbing onto my fucking soapbox now. And second of all, even if you do get a fucking business degree, people are still living in sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with 4 other people, working at fucking Starbucks for minimum wage. So,
I agree with that.
Okay.
I would rather people get.
Thanks, Dewey.
I would rather people study the arts, study music. I want people to do that. I'm just saying that it's not easy to pay off the $100,000 fucking dollars in education when it should be fucking free when you are trying to play flute for a living.
Okay. Well, I'm going to move on because there's a lot of questions here. Scooby Snacks had a question. How can Indigenous rights, advance climate justice generally, and practices in Indigenous groups differ from? So basically, and I don't like the East-West thing, because technically this is the West, in which case the Indigenous practices here would be considered West. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's a different story. But anyway, so traditional Indigenous, and this is not just for Native Americans, Indigenous peoples all over the world have a practice. And if we go back, thank you, Stewie, white folks go back far enough into our histories, we will find similar cultures that understand our place within the ecosystem, as opposed to on top of it or outside of it.
Thank you, Cindy.
And that's really the difference. That's the importance of highlighting Indigenous issues and Indigenous rights, because their stewardship of the land, their perspective of our place with the land, not on top of or over the land, is the only way that we will have a livable future. So that's the kind of short answer. Somebody wants to know about Panquake Lee. Yeah, so let me explain Panquake in a minute. Let's go to maybe Christine. Hold on. Are we really? Guys, although we seem overwhelmed, we like being overwhelmed because it means. No, I do. That wasn't a criticism of you. Jesus. We like being overwhelmed because it means there's a lot of great questions coming in. Really going to let them take it away? I say no. Let's not let them take it away. I don't think anyone knows what you're responding to. Well, I'm trying to. You got to highlight. Okay. Click on Christine. Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead. Christine, that's a great point. I don't think it's a good defense, but it's a great point that we have our entire government cheers on these insurrections, these violent coups in other countries. We have definitely talked about that. I know we talked about it on our podcast. I think we talked about it on our live stream as well. I've done a moment of clarity on it, but there's literally money to create billions of dollars to create these violent insurrections and violent coups in other countries within the stimulus bill, within the COVID-19 bill
there is billions of dollars given to democracy promotion in other countries to create exactly what we're furious about here in Washington, D.C. So it's a great point. It's incredible hypocrisy of our ruling elite and of our media to act like this insurrection is disgusting. But in all of the countries, we're going to push for that because we want them to be a failed state. We want to put in our puppet governments. Anyway, you get the point.
Yes. And thank you, John. And yay. Love hearing about that.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Jean. Right. Good. Scrolling. Okay. Whew.
Okay, so shall I explain Panquake real quick?
COVID 1984. I like that. Yes, please do.
Okay, folks. Some of you may have known that an event was promoted last night that I was speaking on. It was put together by Susie Dawson, and the other speakers included Jimmy Dore, Chris Hedges, Graham Elwood, several others, Bill Benny, the famous NSA whistleblower. And unfortunately, thank you, Kamazato. Thank you, Jason. Wow, some great, Gene. Some great donations. Really appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
I'm not seeing.
They're back a little.
Oh.
Yeah, I think they're.
Oh. All right.
Anyway, so the event was supposed to go live on YouTube. However,
tell them where to find it.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
It was called Project X in the promotion. However, the actual name of the product, and by the way, I am not a creator of the product. I'm just a spokesman in the sense that I think it's a good idea. I'm not getting paid for it, nothing.
A supporter.
Supporter. And it's called Panquake. The idea for that name comes from pan as in global, and quake as in the amount of impact that we can have on our social media, the way it can create movements. So that's where they got the name. And
craving maple syrup right now.
Yeah. Hey, careful. I think one of the features is called cupquakes. So sounds delicious. Anyway, it has some similarities to Twitter. It is I mean, I don't know if they define it this way. I would define it as a cooler Twitter competitor. But the idea is that it is blockchain based. And so it actually cannot be censored in the way that Twitter can. It can't be. Now, there would still be, you couldn't put up like child porn or something. There's still some limitations, I believe. But they can't, there's not like a unitary decision that, oh, we're going to delete this person simply because they said something we don't like. And so it creates a room for organizers and for those that want to create change that won't be censored in the way my channels are censored, in the way Jimmy Dore's are and Eleanor's are and everything else. And so the idea is that it's kind of free of that censorship. And like I said, Bill Benny is helping to create this thing, the famed NSA whistleblower who he helped create although he didn't, I think, realize exactly what they'd be used for, but helped create the programs that ended up becoming the systems that surveil all Americans. And he quit in disgust when he realized how these things were being used. I think it was the plot of the movie Real Genius. And anyway, thank you, Underhill.
Thanks, Underhill.
So anyway, I won't get into too many. You're going to hear more about Panquake going forward, but the YouTube stopped all of the presentation. It wouldn't upload, it buffered, and it wasn't just, it was multiple channels. When they tried to put the video up, later it had trouble. I believe the full event is now online. Hopefully you can find it. Check Susie Dawson's Twitter feed for that. And for all updates, but also there is a Panquake website. It's either panquake.com or .org. And right now it's still in the development stages. So this is kind of just announcing it. It doesn't exist yet, but they're very far in the development and it sounds very cool. So for those of you who tried to attend last night, thank you.
So again, if folks are on,
thank you, Christine. You're amazing.
Christine.
Yes, you can donate to Panquake. It is, if you go to their website, they're actually looking for donors to keep it going and keep the development going. And you can get all those details at, I should probably just look it up. Actually, can you type it in here and then we can hit share screen?
Oh.
Panquake.
Like the, okay.
QUA.
Well, your computer is very slow. Panquake.org.
Try.com. See what happens. Yeah, okay, there it is. So just go back to StreamYard.
I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to break something. International House of Panquakes. Yes, I love it. Oh, so fancy.
There it is. Okay, it's panquake.com. And you can go there and, we should remove her comment. But,
whatever.
And you can go there and learn about a lot more about it. So
now you have to unshare. I don't know how to do that. Hey.
Or you hit the big stop button.
Oh, see, I would think stop would mean like stop the broadcast, and then I
Don't
would
do
just
that.
like ruin the whole thing.
Thank you guys so much for even asking.
So again, if you're on Facebook and you want to donate, you have to go to youtube.com/moment of clarity. And again, we're donating to Stop Line 3, which is working to stop Line 3.
The pipeline.
a pipeline, oil pipeline. Basically like an expansion, a new oil pipeline. And this is a really, really big fight. And it's looking for a lot of support. So we're trying to support in any way that we can under the circumstances where we can't actually go and physically support very easily.
Ro, it sounds from your question you're trying to be critical, asking whether we're making money off the native plight, but none of this money goes to us. All of these proceeds are going to Stop Line 3. That is not us. It is a group of people that includes many indigenous trying to stop this pipeline.
Yeah. And don't feed the trolls, folks. That includes you.
Well, I want to answer the question. I mean, I get he was asking.
No, but he's been trolling for a while. So.
Okay. Fair enough. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. So anybody else have questions or shit they want discussed? Oh, you were about to launch into the Biden shit.
I can move on to Joe Biden, but I've loved the questions. You guys have had really great ones tonight, and I really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
But yes, I will. Sorry, I'm trying to take.
We're always trying to like read
chat
comments
as I'm talking. Someone's talking about how Russia is capitalist, and yes, Russia is capitalist. So for those of you who think, look at Russia, see how much socialism sucks. Russia's capitalist. I'm sorry. I know it hurts to learn that, but.
Do people know it's not the USSR anymore?
People don't. Yeah, no.
Like,
history,
were we there for that?
I think Americans, but even outside of America, but it's really mostly Americans,
also,
seem to not be into history. It's just
alert.
not fun.
USSR was also not socialist, so yeah.
Indeed.
Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, going into your next point about Biden.
Dennis, I don't understand your question. Can you guys have a guest on someday, Abby or Peter Joseph? Well, I have had both Abby Martin and Peter Joseph on multiple times on Redacted Tonight. So I think you should check out those interviews. This live stream is a different format, but those interviews are available, and Abby and Peter are still making great work. So. Okay, so to get to the Biden thing for at least a few minutes, feel free to keep throwing up questions. Not like, but like you can type them there.
Well, if you vomit, we're not going to see it anyway. So
okay, feel free to vomit. Maybe angle away from your keyboard. But I wanted to get into just a couple more of Biden's picks. I've covered some of his other picks in past shows, Redacted Tonight, Moment of Clarity, but some of the newer ones is that he has put in Victoria Nuland as the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. And Victoria Nuland she's a longtime ruling elite, a longtime power that be, mostly behind the scenes. But one of the things she's been most connected to is helping create the coup that the U.S. supported in Ukraine, where we aligned with neo-Nazis to bring down, or Nazis, to bring down the current Ukrainian government and replace them with someone that was friendly to the West, cooperative to the West.
Which makes sense that it would be straight up fascist. That's,
Yeah, so we covered on Government Secrets this week some of the the photos of McCain posing with basically straight up Nazis, and Victoria Nuland was caught on a leaked phone call. I can't remember who she was discussing it with, but she was put in charge of basically helping make sure this happened in Ukraine, and she's told by the person on the other end of the phone, the connection to the Nazis and everything, the EU is not going to like this. And her response is, fuck the EU. So, yeah, this is someone who is aligned with Nazis, thinks that the Ukraine is better off, filling itself with American missiles, which is what Trump got impeached for withholding. And I think Trump is and has been phenomenally, thank you, Nick, has been phenomenally corrupt. However, that phone call was not really any more corrupt than the stuff Biden did with Ukraine.
Not at all.
Out and out, that Biden said on stage that he would withhold billions of dollars in aid to the Ukraine if they didn't fire the prosecutor looking into the oil company his son was sitting on the board of. He said that on camera. So Trump, yes, corrupt. Biden, yes, corrupt. So it's hilarious that Trump got impeached for something that Biden had basically also done. Anyway.
Nick has a question.
Do you think Biden will actually pass $15 an hour? Do you think if the Senate goes back to the Republicans in 2022, would Bernie be named labor secretary, and would it make a difference? So first question, would Biden actually pass $15 an hour? I don't actually know the answer to that. I think that may come down to some inner workings of that. Biden has said he supports it. It's already passed the House. Now the Democrats have the Senate. However, the Democrats, as we know, are a corporate party. They are a business party. So even though they may talk a lot about $15 minimum wage, when push comes to shove, they're actually hoping that they have some excuse to not pass it, to say, oh, we couldn't get it through. That's why they like when the Senate and the House are in two different hands. When the Republicans have the Senate and the Democrats have the House, they can stand for all this shit and never get it done and say it's the Republicans.
Right.
But now, how are you going to justify that, Joe Biden? Not having a $15 minimum wage, and we'll find out whether he actually stands behind it. I don't think he will, but
I think it'll be like Obama, because Obama had both houses as well, and I think it'll be the same argument. Like, well, now's not the time. This will have worse ramifications than we understood. So really, it's better to do this or that or the other. Or, localities themselves should pass the minimum wage if they want to raise it, which has happened, but it's obviously not a federal wage hike. So there will be all of these hemming and hawing fucking excuses as to why they can't do it.
Thank you, River Oracle.
And I also wanted to highlight this question because
thank you, Ahmed Ali.
This is the question, or one of the big questions. Is there any hope for progressive politics in the U.S. and UK with a duopoly system, or must the system fail first for this to happen? And I don't think that progressive politics, and here's the thing, I think that you can get progressive folks in, but the question is what kind of power they will have. And how long they will stay progressive. AOC is a great example, and we're going to be talking about that on our podcast this week, Uncommon Censored. But that's, people looked at AOC like she was some kind of, knight in shining armor, and she's folding into the fucking, she's towing the party line.
Literally over the span of a few years, she's gone from literally protesting outside Nancy Pelosi's office when she was first elected to calling Nancy Pelosi the mama bear. That's been the shift.
Which I would actually rather be confronted with an actual bear than Nancy Pelosi, but that's, so I think
both are growling with blood around their snouts, but
so I think for me, like, I would say that I don't think that the electoral politics route is how you gain liberation. And I don't think that that's how we are going to, if we are going to manifest a livable future, I don't think that's how it's going to happen. That certainly doesn't mean that it's hopeless. I think that actually that's very hopeful, because electoral politics is generally a fucking quagmire. And I think the building of alternatives and the sort of grassroots power that has been building and continues to grow is far more hopeful than trying to, bash our head against the electoral politics door. That's my take.
And to answer the second half of Nick's question about whether
Bernie totally stepped in there.
That's okay. Whether Bernie Sanders will become labor secretary later, because their excuse right now for why they can't put Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, not that Elizabeth Warren matters much, but why they can't put either of them in as a cabinet secretary under Joe Biden is that they need all those seats in the Senate because they only. Thanks, Chris. They only have the majority in the Senate by one vote. So they say they can't risk Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. But that may be true, but I think that's also an excuse for not putting someone solid in. Like, there are other great people out there that could be in these positions, and they're not putting them in either, whether they're senators or not. And so when they no longer, let's say the Democrats lose big in the next midterm, and they're down 60 votes in the Senate. At that point, there'll be no reason Bernie couldn't step out of the Senate and go join the cabinet or whatever. I still don't think they're going to do it because the Democratic establishment has spent years just crushing Bernie Sanders and everything he stands for. And that has been their goal. That has been goal number one. Right now, yes, it seems like their ire is reserved for Trump, but most of these years, these past 5-6 years, they've spent just making sure to snuff out Bernie Sanders and anything he stood for, the ideas he stood for. That has been their goal for the past 6 years. And they have largely achieved it by rigging their own primary, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think they would ever give Bernie Sanders that bully pulpit to have any position other than the one he has, because that would be going backwards in their effort, long-term effort, to crush him and what he stands for. And
by the way, just a quick note on Bernie, Bernie is not left. I mean, he's left of the Democrats.
That too.
But he is not, he's what you might call liberal in actual classic politics. Right now we think of the liberals as the Democrats, but they're actually the Republicans from the 80s. So everything, the Overton window is shifted. So we now are we're very skewed. Everything's skewed to the right. So Bernie is not actually that left. And the things that he's talking about are things that have been taught. I mean, fucking Reagan, was it Reagan that had talked about implementing a UBI? This is not, these are, was it Nixon? I was fucking.
It was Nixon, but it was also MLK.
Well, yeah, but nobody.
Nixon almost got it passed.
Right, Nixon
almost got it through Congress.
But so Nixon was fucking talking about UBI. So I think it's really important that we not engage in kind of hero worship with regards to Bernie or AOC or anything else. And then we also, I think, hold on, recognize that.
I wasn't doing that.
No, but you're going to scroll, and I don't want you to scroll.
Okay.
This is me also being Swedish because I recognize that that's a Swedish name. So the answer to this question also has to do with Sweden because Sweden has more than 2 parties. There are several parties in Sweden. And I think kind of the same question could be applied there. Well, if we just had more parties, could we get people that do less horrific shit? In Sweden, there's a problem with, the privatization of healthcare, and, COVID has run rampant because they apparently just all of a sudden don't believe in science. And so I think the problem, yes, the US could use some more parties just because it's fucking insane that there are only 2. But I also think, again, the idea that liberation can come from the adding of more parties to an electoral system, I find that concept inherently flawed because you're just adding more, more choices to a thoroughly undemocratic and rigged and corrupt system. And I think the greater push for our liberation and for a livable future has to happen outside of state houses and the like.
By the way, all the funds donated are going to stop Line 3, fight the Line 3 pipeline. So if you go over to youtube.com/moment of clarity and click the $, you can donate $1 or $2 or whatever to help fight that pipeline and all of the needs of those protesting it on the front lines. And by the way, if we get $50 over the next 10 minutes, we'll stay an extra 10 minutes. And we'd love for that to happen. And it's a little more that'll go to that pipeline fight. So if you have a couple of bucks. Obviously, we don't want anyone not eating dinner because they donated to this. So
yeah, no, we do these so that people can come and hang out. The cool little additive there is that we get to raise funds for folks that who we support. But y'all are just welcome to come hang out with us. So there's no door charge for these live streams.
Absolutely. And yeah, Jan says Bernie's not great on foreign policy. I'd say that's one of the biggest flaws in Bernie.
He also is a big fan of the F-35 because they are built in Vermont. And for those who aren't familiar, F-35 is like the most expensive, non-functioning pile of fucking scrap metal that you can find. So, yeah.
I actually found out something. This is not exempt Bernie for what he does, what he's done with that.
Thanks, Wit-to-Wit.
Thanks, Wit-to-Wit.
That's fun to say.
I found out that the F-35 has parts made in 48 states. So basically who is it? Is it Boeing that makes it or one of them? I think. What they did was they made sure to parse out where these things are made, where these contracts go, so that every state senator just about has a reason to never undermine the F-35. So it has parts made in 48 fucking states. Now, a large percentage of it is made in Vermont, which is why Bernie loves.
It's a nice little monopoly they got going there. Yes, Fred, there are, I mean, I don't know if there are 18, but there are a lot of parties in all Scandinavian countries. And again, Finland is doing way better than Sweden and probably like most things, particularly education. But yeah, the amount of parties that you have is not a fail-safe for the issues of neoliberalism, which is a problem in Scandinavia, RBU. Or the rise of fascism or anything else. So, thank you. Thank you,
Underhill.
Ha ha.
We're at 25 of the $50.
And Lyle, so in order to donate to help fight the pipeline, you go to YouTube, which you are on. It looks like Lyle. So you just go to where you put in your comment and there's a $sign and then you can put in an amount of money.
You have to log in. He is logged in. Yeah.
Okay. And then you can put in a dollar amount and that money will go to stopline3.org. If you're watching this after the fact, you can check out stopline3.org. That's where all of our donations are going this week. So yeah, wow. Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Jarko.
Thank you, Nick. Oh, it's Lockheed Martin, not Boeing.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you,
Lockheed Martin.
We get to crowdsource answers to things on this thing, which I also think is great.
Thank you, Felicia.
Thank you. Okay.
Are we caught up?
I think so.
I have another great Biden pick. If we want to move on to that.
Great.
Samantha Power, yay! Formerly with the Obama administration. She has been selected by Biden to run the USAID. Now, first thing you have to know is thank you, Basil.
Thanks, Ross.
And thanks, Ross. Everybody should go to hardroadofhope.com to watch Eleanor's documentary. A USAID is basically a CIA cutout. It sprung off the CIA, and it under the guise of doing good and helping other countries, USAID goes into those countries and helps foment coups to bring down governments that our U.S. empire doesn't like. It's very active in places like Hong Kong. It's very active with Ukraine, or was very active with Ukraine. And there's many other areas around the world. Those are just two examples. So,
thanks, Nick.
But it does it under this guise of we're here to help. Look at us. It reminds me of did you remember outside Venezuela when they were they're still trying to create a coup in Venezuela, but when they had that concert for help Venezuela, basically the U.S. had created an economic war against Venezuela there's some people suffering in Venezuela. However, the reports that they don't have toothpaste and shit is all horseshit.
And they're suffering because of U.S. sanctions.
Because of our
economic warfare.
Because of our economic war on them. So we create the problem. We then say, we have the answer. And Richard Branson helps fund a concert for hope or whatever the fuck they called it. And it was on the border of Venezuela in Colombia because they couldn't get in. I wonder why.
I know.
And they brought in trucks of aid to give to Venezuela. So they created the catastrophe in Venezuela and then brought what they said was the solution. And they had these trucks lined up. We have aid for you. And then it turned out that many of the trucks never got in, but it turned out many of the trucks had weapons and nails and things that could be used for like IEDs and
people donated millions of dollars, and most of that money went to fucking Guaido, or basically to fund the ongoing coup against Venezuela. It didn't go to help Venezuelan people.
And Richard Branson, along with some musicians, I can't remember which ones, but that were either idiots and they believe everything NPR reports, or they literally just want to create a coup in Venezuela. They were down there. Anyway, that's what USAID is. It comes up and it goes, we're here to help. And they're not there to help. They're there to create coups and create failed states and crush people. Samantha Power will be running it now. And she is kind of the figurehead of the idea of humanitarian intervention. The U.S. goes into countries and we help people wherever there's a problem. It's like the old 1950s Superman, wherever there's an issue, he'll be there. Wherever there's a problem, he'll be there. That's what Samantha Power says of U.S. Military. And of course, there is no humanitarian intervention done by the United States. It does not exist. Never once have we gone into a country just to help them and not wanted our pound of flesh on the other side. So she is like the voice of this. She's the face of this. She pushed big time for the attack on Libya to help the Libyan people get out from under the misery. And now Libya is basically warring factions of warlords with open air slave markets. So she was big behind Libya. She did it with Syria. And anyway, that is who she is. Mm-hmm. So Joe Biden looked at that record and he said, you are perfect
for me
to run USAID. Exactly. That's my kind of people.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Got any more comments? I think we got to $50.
We got a good.
So.
We got a good. I love these things because I feel I can mime shit. Also
now I can go down here and do some coke.
Linda, yes, the shock doctrine by Naomi Klein talks about a lot of the CIA fuckery, which one of those things, as you note, is the coup in Chile, and Argentina, and there's a long history of, as someone else noted, we coup whoever we want. Yes, we do. We being the U.S. government. And Venezuela has been incredibly powerful in the holdout. And we as anti-war activists that really fight for self-determination and autonomy have been supporting that and continue to support that, particularly in times like these when the U.S. stands in the way of medication getting to these countries because of the economic warfare. So. And if folks are interested, there's some really good information on our economic warfare around the world at sanctionskill.org, I believe it is. Either that or sanctionskill.com.
Thank you, Valum and Michael.
But yeah, there's some really good information on there, and it really puts into perspective the incredibly the worldwide scope and the vast array of countries that we are basically at war with, because the economic warfare is war. People die. In a 2-year span, some 40,000 people are estimated to have died in Venezuela because of our economic warfare. So this is war. People are dying the same way that they would if we were actually dropping bombs on them, which we do.
Thank you, Underhill.
So it's incredibly important that we continue to raise these conversations and that it not fall to the wayside. Underhill, can we talk about COVID variants?
So the COVID variants sound like they are even more contagious.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing is that I feel like is not really discussed on your mainstream media is that we could have a real lockdown that would actually stop the pandemic if you actually made it so that people weren't suffering within that lockdown. If you actually said, look, all of these businesses that are going to collapse in the next week if they don't stay open, we will make sure that they do fine. We will make sure that they are covered. We will make sure that our systems don't fail you. But America has done the opposite. In many other countries, they have covered 80 to 100% of all lost wages of workers. So these workers don't go unemployed. They don't lose money. They don't just send out a $600 check like America's been doing. So you could have a real, when you say lockdown, people go, fuck no. And that's because they just assume there could not be a safety net to make sure that that could work for people. But there could be. Other countries
have done it. And Nick has a wonderful suggestion here, folks. If someone donates exactly $25.25, could it be over that, Nick? Or is it exactly?
Exactly.
He'll donate $50.50, which I like that. Radical
Nick
Eclectic,
is saying
thank you.
He will double someone's donation.
Yes, thank you. That's also a way of saying that. I knew it was double.
But I think his point was that you can't just donate 5 and he'll double it. It's got to be 25.
So Radical Eclectic, thank you for the donation. And thank you also for pointing out MLK Day tomorrow. Yes, absolutely. And remembering his stance against capitalism, imperialism, and gradualism, as well as racism. Yes, these are incredibly important issues that get totally whitewashed in remembering Dr. King's legacy. And it's so important to remember that he really did combine these issues and he really worked against these issues, which is why he's no longer with us.
Christine did the 25-25.
Hey!
Go, Christine. Which means Nick's doing 50-50.
Woo!
Well done, Nick and Christine. I like your teamwork. Pretty incredible.
Yes, solidarity. Solidarity funds right here.
Solidarity.
I'm still not saying the 25-25, but I'll take your word for it.
That's all right. Take my word for it. TYT Wolfpack has donated $10. I think it's not the real TYT. Don't worry, they have issues. But
yes, thank you so much. Why am I'm not seeing it? Okay, whatever. I'll just take your word for it again.
Okay, so TYT wants to argue with me, and I won't.
Don't feed the trolls,
Stop. It's not. He's not a troll. He's arguing with me. It's okay. I'll argue with him or her. So obviously a fan of the squad, which I think there are some positives about the squad. He says AOC said Mama Bear one time. You can remove it whenever. But he said AOC said Mama Bear one time, and that's all you can cite. No, that's not actually all I can cite. I can cite the fact that she voted for Nancy Pelosi this time, and was her arguments about forcing a vote and why she wouldn't force a vote for Medicare for all were largely refuted and garbage. I can cite the fact that she tweeted that John McCain was a man of unparalleled human decency. This is a war criminal who wanted to bomb every country on the planet. He never met a country he didn't want to bomb, and he made efforts to do that. He flew back to the U.S. on like his deathbed. And I think his final vote, I believe it was his final vote, was to make sure that the U.S. kept supplying Saudi Arabia with weapons to basically perpetrate the genocide in Yemen. And this is someone that she said unparalleled human decency. I'm not saying AOC has never done anything positive. I'm not saying nothing she stands for is positive. I'm saying that's not the only thing I can cite, and that there are serious problems here. So I don't think discussing the problems is wrong or taboo or should be censored. So is that okay?
Is it okay?
I don't think that was feeding the troll. I think that was having a fair discussion. Wow, Cheryl also gave 25-25. You're a hero, Cheryl.
Thank you.
And of course, Nick.
Thank you so much, Nick. Yeah, rad. Thank you, Aspie, for peace. Appreciate it. Yes, y'all are rad. And we're coming to the end of the show.
We are. Last chance to donate. Aspie, thank you so much.
Yes. And if you're watching this after the fact, please check out. Thank you, Belinda. if you're watching this after the fact, please check out stopline3.org, and you can find lots of information on the ongoing fight against Line 3. And you can also find ways to donate if you'd like to, if you're watching this after the fact, or even if you're watching this now and you want to donate more over there. That's totally rad. So please do that.
I will address one more thing. Someone was talking about, because we brought up MLK, someone was saying MLK was assassinated for his anti-war stance. And yes, that is definitely part of it. But I think more than just that, it was MLK was showing the power he had with his Poor People campaign and much more.
Connecting issues.
Yeah, connecting issues together, connecting peoples together, and being anti-capitalist. He put out at least large criticisms of capitalism at the very least. And so it was a combination of all those things. He was showing that he was incredibly powerful. The number of people he could rally and the number of people that could rally to anti-war, anti-capitalism, pro-worker, it made him very dangerous. And that's why he was assassinated by our CIA and CIA-aligned forces. And I've covered that a lot. The Plot to Kill King is one of the best books on the details of how clear it is that James Earl Ray did not kill MLK. So,
yeah, and if you haven't already, please read the letter from the Birmingham jail. That shit should be required reading for everybody, not just in the U.S., but I think everywhere. It's an incredibly powerful commentary about the idea that, like, oh, we just want you to wait for your liberation and wait for justice. Now's not the right time. And how the KKK is kind of an easy enemy, but more difficult and more insidious is the enemy that says, we just want you to wait for your liberation. Now's not the right time, which is, something that has informed my perspective very much, in the sense that, like, the Republicans, for instance, say that they don't believe in climate change. So why would they do anything about it?
Thank you, Mackenzie.
Whereas the Democrats say they believe in climate change, but they're just going to keep doing horrific shit anyway. And, in that case, I think that the Democrats are more insidious and far more dangerous. So, yeah, very good suggestion there, and some reading material, particularly in light of tomorrow. So, and I would say, definitely, like, don't let Dr. King's legacy be whitewashed. It's so important that we recognize his incredible. Thank you, Shay. Mini Wachoni.
Yalla.
Mini Wachoni. Water is life, absolutely. And yeah, don't let Dr. King, or really, anybody's legacy be whitewashed for the powerful connections that he made across issues under the system of capitalism. I think is incredibly important to recognize. So when some jackass like Ted Cruz fucking tweets some MLK quote, don't call that shit out, because that's some bullshit. Yeah, and I think in light of tomorrow, I think, let's continue to walk these paths that have been lit by people like Martin Luther King Jr. And yes, onwards and upwards.
Thank you all, and we will see you soon. Please check out Common Censored, and Eleanor's documentary is at hardroadofhope.com. All of my stuff's at leecamp.com. And our other podcasts, Eleanor's, are called Act Out and Silver Threads. My other one is called Government Secrets. And then I also have one called Moment of Clarity. That's all the audio from Redacted tonight. All right, guys, keep fighting.
Act Out.